representation in video games has become a prominent topic in recent years, ranging from a rise in diverse protagonists to LGBT characters and romance options. And while some gamers decry this, we embrace the diversity. So join us in this episode as we shine a light on one facet of this topic, trans representation in video games. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Downloadable Content. I'm your guest host, Veronica, and today with me I have Brian.
Hello.
And I have Rin.
Hello.
And today, we are here to discuss the history of trans representation in video games, prominent figures in that history, and what that representation means to us as trans gamers and allies. But first, I want to remind everyone that every single episode of Downloadable Content can be found on the website, dlcpodcast.com. Episodes can be found on iTunes, YouTube, not Stitcher because it's dead, and Google Play Music. Is that all of them? Did I get them right?
Not Google Play Music anymore. It's
Oh!
No, it's Apple Podcast / iTunes.
I will have to... Well, I mentioned iTunes, but yes. Then I'll have to remove that from my later ones. Look at this. We're changing stuff in the episode.
We're changing stuff.
Also, you can check out the website for upcoming episodes. Check them out. Let us know if you want to be in on an episode or give us ideas for future episodes. We'd love to hear them. So, how are you folks doing?
Oh, I'm just ducky.
I am good. How about you?
Thank you guys for being here on my special episode. To give some clarification to any viewers we have, this episode is of particular note. First, we are recording this the day before Trans Day of Visibility. Very fitting. And this is also 2 weeks after my year anniversary of coming out as a trans woman. So this is very important to me personally and something I really wanted to share.
Congratulations.
Thank you. You two already know, but to the viewers. For the viewers, I just outed myself as a trans woman. Would you guys like to talk about your connections to the trans identity, to trans representation?
Who's going first?
You spoke first. Go.
Yeah. Oh boy. Okay. Yeah. Well, I'm Rin, and I use he/him pronouns or they/them pronouns, and I am non-binary transmasculine. I have completed all of my physical and social transition markers that I cared to do. I've been on hormone replacement therapy. I've had surgery, the whole nine. And it's just something I don't really think about much anymore, honestly, because I'm, 2 years, 3 years, how many years? I don't know, 3 years post-surgery and 10 years post-name change and 10 years post-documentation change. It's just not something that I think about anymore, especially being 10 years on HRT. It's just not something that comes up in my daily life, but it's still nice to talk about, I guess, in places that are safe and accepting like this one. So, hey.
I appreciate you being here. Brian, how about you?
So, yours truly is not trans. However, I do have a non-binary trans mask spouse. And he has been on HRT now for almost a year and a half at this point. And which is awesome. Yeah, a year and a half at this point. The legal name change was done only just this past autumn. And
I'm so happy for him.
oh, so am I.
That is a nightmare, and I'm glad that they've mostly gotten through that.
Yep,
I'm
and
so glad that mine was done so long ago that I'm just like, that is so far in my rearview mirror. And I'm
yeah,
like, thank goodness.
yeah. I mean, there was some bodily dragging to City Hall here in downtown Albany because there was there was needing to people, and that comes with its own fraud.
I missed out on most of the peopling because by the time I had to people, my name had been already changed for so long that I didn't have to. Everything was already done.
He's trans, I'm bi, you do the math. So,
I mean, even with that, you were always a very strong ally for your queer
Oh,
friend.
absolutely.
So, let's continue. Before we get into the characters and history, I'd like to talk about, or I'd like to point out the guidelines for who I am not including in this. Because there are way too many characters to include, and we could do a whole nother episode of this if we wanted to in the future. So, my current guidelines, I'm not including intersex characters, not because they don't deserve to be included, they deserve their own episode. I'm not including characters from species that are genderless. So people like Kina from Final Fantasy IX or the Knight from Hollow Knight, they are absolutely non-binary representation, but considering their entire species is non-binary, it's hard for me to see them as trans representation, at least from my perspective. Finally, I won't be including games that are adaptations of franchises that started in other media. Which means your favorite trans anime character might have a video game, but unless they started in video games, they're probably not getting mentioned. That all fair?
That sounds good to me. I don't watch enough anime to even notice the third point.
Yeah, fine for me.
Well then, let's get started. Starting at the earliest point in history. Do you guys want to take a guess at how far back we're going for our first trans character?
Well, if I had to take a guess, if you want to have a trans character, you must first invent the universe. So I'm at least, with apologies to the late Dr. Carl Sagan, 4.5 billion
You're
years
correct.
is a bit of a stretch, but I'll say 40 years.
Okay. So first of all, this is not going to have every trans character that has ever been created. I'm mainly going to be focusing on prominent characters, whether they were actually explicitly trans, implicitly, or headcanoned. But I will have some smaller ones mixed in there, especially if they were important for some reason. And the first one isn't before we start on this, we're starting in the Classic Age. And I will warn people here, we will get to good representation, but there ain't a lot of good representation early on. So, be ready for that. So, the first piece of representation we have, which we probably all heard about on the playground at one point. Did you guys know that one of the creators of Metroid has said that Samus was trans?
I did know that.
No,
that I did know.
I did not. That is new information for me.
Yeah, so this is one of the ones where Samus, at least to the company, has never been a trans character, but the character designer may have considered them to be trans or have considered that as part of their creation. During an interview in Japan, when all of the creators were being interviewed, the last question each of them got was, can you tell us something about Samus or about the video game Metroid that nobody knows? And when it got to the character designer, the person who designed Samus, they called Samus a new half, which is a Japanese term that roughly translates to tranny. It's a derogatory term.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, we're not getting a lot of good representation for a while. Strap in. I'll try not to focus on the bad representation too much, but I do feel the need to point it out.
History is important.
This one, yeah, absolutely. this one I feel like is pretty important because that interview was picked up in headlines, and then in America, there are fans that translated those headlines and didn't get any of the context and just got that in Japan, Samus is trans. And I heard about this when I was a kid. I did not have the context, but this was definitely a thing that this is probably the first first character that I believed was trans in video games. Ultimately, that's not the way the character has gone, whether it was originally intended or not. But that's what we got. You guys have any thoughts? Or shall I move on?
I find that just very, very interesting because, especially in the light of the fact that the original Metroid, you have the quote surprise ending if you beat the game quick enough, I never knew that because to your point, they've always been seen as female. That's the way Nintendo has played the character forever.
Absolutely. And it's interesting that, like, if that had been their intention, Samus in the first game was portrayed as an absolute badass. Like, there is no downside there. Like, you read about them in the manual or any of the stuff, like, they are an absolute unit. And
Samus and Smash Brothers, every version, amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I would gladly take Samus's trans representation. That's not, at least to the company, that isn't the intent. And I'm not going to try to make it seem like it isn't, but this is one of the weird category of representation I have on here of characters that weird stuff happened with. Creators were not on the same page. To a place where creators mostly were on the same page, that's mixed representation, and is probably the one everybody thinks of, is Birdo from Doki Doki Panic / Super Mario Bros. 2. Mm-hmm. Everybody familiar with Birdo?
I don't know who you're talking about. I just don't. No, never heard of Birdo in my life. Never, ever.
I think you might be trolling me. You're both aware of Birdo being trans, like that whole thing.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So, Birdo's representation has ranged. It didn't start off great. It started off in the Mario Bros. 2 manual saying he thinks that he is a girl and he spits eggs from his mouth. He'd rather be called Birdetta. So, using the wrong pronouns to begin with, explicitly basically saying that they're dead naming Birdetta. Wasn't the best representation in that original manual. And their representation has had highs and lows since then. Like, they've actually had some decent representation for Birdo in a couple different places, not the least of which being when they were given a voice in BS Super Mario USA. You guys heard of the Satellaview before?
Yes, I have heard of those games. Never played them, but I know they exist.
I have played the BS Zelda games. I have not played the BS Super Mario. But they are updated versions of older Nintendo games, often that have CD quality audio and sometimes voice acting. And when they gave Birdo voice acting, they cast a trans woman.
Oh.
And this is in the 90s.
Oh my God.
Yeah, that was actually pretty cool. Like, I do appreciate that. Once again, then they go right back to in this one I'm not actually sure. Mario Kart Double Dash. That's the one where you have two different people in the cart, right, Brian?
Yep.
Now, Birdo's Japanese name is Catherine. So the quote from... Yeah, the quote is, Catherine appears to be Yoshi's girlfriend. Or does that mean boyfriend? Question mark. Nintendo... We'll see Nintendo doing better later. Nintendo really fumbles a lot of this early representation. Though I guess I do have to point out, especially with Birdo, with a couple of the people we'll be talking about. This was super important at the time. And I know a lot of people who did identify as trans at the time embraced Birdo and embraced a lot of this representation, even if it was kind of iffy, because when you have nothing else, you grab onto what you have.
Yeah.
Which is the case for a lot of minorities. Of you when you don't have great representation, you grab what you can. So, I promise we'll get to good representation. We got one more one that's not great, and then we'll get to some good representation.
We'll move forward in time.
No, we're not leaping forward quite yet. We are doing a character in the same year as Birdo. We have Poison from Final Fight. This one gives me a headache. Are you guys familiar?
I'm familiar of the game's existence. It's not one I've particularly played.
Okay.
I got nothing.
Yeah, that's fine. You guys don't have to. I'm gonna ask on several of them just to gauge. So Poison is a character from Final Fight. Final Fight is a beat-em-up franchise from the point in time that is in the same continuity as Street Fighter. In fact, several characters, including Poison from Final Fight, become Street Fighter characters later on. Our viewers may have seen Poison in the more recent Street Fighter games. Poison, when they were created in Japan, or at least when they were being created in Japan, was designed as a cis woman. But about halfway through development, they realized they were going to have issues getting a woman who's a villain in a beat-em-up past the US censors, because they're not going to want to see a man beating up on a cis woman. So what do? They make her a trans woman, because it's okay for a trans woman to get punched in the face. Yeah. Also not great.
Where's my Price is Right fail horn sound effect? I feel like...
On the other hand, this is a character that has been redeemed from that path. They have left the evil gang that they were in Final Fight. They have become a pro wrestling manager in the Street Fighter universe, and are currently the manager for Hugo, their Andre the Giant character that was also from Final Fight. And they are, from my understanding, a fan favorite in Street Fighter. They are actually very popular at this point.
I love a redemption arc.
It's a redemption now. It took quite a while, and this is the first but not last of characters that creators keep going back and forth about really weird things. Like the creators going in Japan, they're a pre-op trans character, and in America, they're post-op, as if that has any relevance whatsoever. Like, it's weird and kind of gross.
Yeah, it has the same sort of sleaze feel as,
Yeah.
I read Playboy, but just for the articles,
Right.
So, not great. I actually had more written up for Poison, but I think I'm just going to move on, because it makes me sad.
It's sad.
Yeah. We'll get to good representation, I promise. We're actually at a piece of decent representation. We have Tessie LaFemme from Caper in the Castro, a game neither of you have heard of.
I have absolutely not.
It is an old-school PC game. It is best known for being the first LGBT-focused game, and it was created by an LGBT creator. It was created as a charityware game, so a free game that asks you to donate to a charity, in this case, an AIDS charity. The creator had seen too many of their friends in the community dying of AIDS, and wanted to try to create a way to help. And this is what they did. It is it is a bit like the old school Sierra games. It is a detective story that is incredibly satirical and tongue-in-cheek. Nothing is taken seriously, as you'll tell from the names. It stars Tracker McDyke, a detective lesbian who is searching for her friend. Who is searching for her friend Tessie LaFemme, a trans woman who has been kidnapped by the villainous Dulligan Straight Man.
Oh yeah, I'm looking at this game now on Wikipedia. Yeah, I mean 1989. You know, we're right in the middle. Right, you know, the AIDS crisis, the AIDS epidemic is front and center. Yeah, that's beautiful.
That's a lot. There's a lot happening there.
Yes,
there really is. So it is a comedic point-and-click adventure game. Lots of queer puns, like the game Room, Gayme, Room, which is the arcade they go to, where you were supposed to meet Tessie at the start of the game. She gets kidnapped, and the entire game is you trying to rescue her. One thing that was questionable at the time was if Tessie was meant to be a trans woman or if they were meant to be a drag queen, either of which would have fit in the game. But the creator had since confirmed that they were designed to be a trans woman. Either way, I probably would have put them on this list, but good to get confirmation. That's all I have to say about that one, but it's good to get something positive.
Fun fact.
But we're not the butt of the joke.
Fun fact, though, about Caper and the Castro. It is playable.
Yes, it is.
It's on the Internet Archive because the creator of the game discovered that they still had the original floppy disks.
Yes, they did. I read that whole story when I was setting all this up.
Oh, and they reached out to the Strong Museum to preserve it. Oh, that's wonderful.
Which, hey, everybody, if you want to play something that's vaguely comedic from the 80s, maybe go give Caper and the Castro a shot. You can play it for free, legally, as opposed to the rest of these games that you could play for free illegally.
Ooh.
Okay, next, a character I am not going to be talking in too great detail about, because I have not played the game yet, but I am very familiar with the character. So, this is a popular internet headcanon, but it's how I originally heard of the character, Ferris from Final Fantasy V.
Ooh, okay, I could see that.
Yep, I can as well.
Yeah. Ferris was raised by pirates as a boy, though privately she identifies as a girl. She dresses very androgynously. She is often headcanoned as a non-gender conforming trans character. The fact that they do identify as a woman, but they still enjoy presenting masculinely in a lot of ways, that they are at least non-gender conforming in a couple different ways, and I can definitely see how someone would headcanon them to, be a trans-masculine character. They will not be the first character we see that was born, that was assigned a certain gender at birth and then raised a different gender, and it makes it all weird. We'll be getting a couple characters like that, because apparently that is the only way that a lot of creators know how to write a trans character.
Side note, you've never played Final Fantasy V?
It's one of the only ones I haven't.
Neither have I, actually.
Yeah.
Huh.
It is on Dijonai's shortlist. It is probably the next Final Fantasy we play.
Huh. I learn something new about you every day. Huh. How about that?
I have
played 3, 4, 5, or 6. True facts.
played 6 with me. Maybe not all the way through. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, damn! I don't remember that.
Yeah, don't worry about it. You may not have played it. We may not have played it all the way through, but I know I played it with you when we were younger.
Good to know. Okay. All right. Well, that's good to know. I've at least seen it briefly.
There are 2 Final Fantasies I haven't played, Brian. I have not played 5, and I have not played 2. Japanese 2.
Okay, well, the original 2, you're not missing much.
I know, but I'm still going to be playing it.
I know. Just be prepared for pain and suffering, and lots of it. Just you have been warned.
I am aware. Speaking of a character that will bring you pain and suffering, we have the next, what I think of as positive representation. We have Flea from Chrono Trigger.
Good segue.
Wow.
Yeah. Flea is absolutely a gender fluid or non-binary or femboy icon, depending on how you read it. I know one of you is familiar. Rin, did you ever play Chrono Trigger?
No, I played Chrono Cross, but not Chrono Trigger.
I know you did. Flea is in Chrono Cross, but they don't look like they normally do, so you wouldn't have gotten any of those. They're one of the 3 bonus bosses you can get in the Bend of Time, where they look like weird monsters.
I see, okay.
In Chrono Trigger, they were actually people.
Yes.
Flea is a shape-shifting mage who is one of Magus's 2 generals. I have the actual just dialogue written up here. This is no ordinary woman. Meet the magician Flea. What? Hey, I'm a guy! But its exterior is that of a female. Male, female, what's the difference? Power's beautiful, and I've got the power. You can see how people would read that as gender fluid in a lot of ways.
It's kind of beating you over the head with it. There is no subtext there. It is all text, literally.
Like, they poke a little bit of fun at it, but Flea is a very powerful character, a very large threat. They are not played as a joke, and they are able to kick your ass pretty well.
Good. Yes, they do.
I don't know about you, Brian, but I found them way more difficult than Slash.
That was a tricky battle. That took a little navigation.
I guess that's all I have for Flea. We are getting towards the end of the representation here. We only have one more character left, who is the worst piece of representation on this entire list. I'm going to be glad for it to be over and done with. So, we're going to talk about Chablis from the Leisure Suit Larry games.
What?
The worst piece of representation on this list, in a very crass trans panic joke.
Oh.
Of Larry trying to sleep with the character, finds out she's trans, starts either spitting up or vomiting, and then goes back to his room to wash his mouth out because he kissed her. Yeah. It's not great.
Yeah, not great, Bob.
No. The Leisure Suit Larry games were often very crude and offensive. That's what a lot of people liked about them. Yeah, this isn't it. This ain't it.
Yeah, no. Nope.
And with that, we close out the classic era, where, as you can tell, most of the characters were either jokes, mistranslations, or the results of censorship. And from here, we transition into the modern era, where stuff starts to get better. We start to see more intentional trans representation, and we get a mixture of good and bad representation. And we get to see Nintendo start their redemption arc for this. The first one I'll be talking about, which this is one that I know Rin is familiar with, is Sheik from Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time.
Absolutely.
So, Sheik is, for those who are not familiar with Ocarina of Time, why would you? It's only considered one of the greatest games of all time.
Watch the 700 hours of retrospectives on why.
Yes. Sheik is the alter ego of Zelda that Zelda uses to disguise themselves in the future timeline. But very prominently, as Sheik, Zelda as Sheik uses masculine pronouns, but more so, they don't look like Zelda. They have a different eye color, they have a different build, they have a different face shape. People have taken the mask off and seen that they do not look like Zelda. They were set up completely, they were modeled completely differently than Zelda's original form. As we know that the Sheikah have a mastery of transformation and illusion magics, it is not hard to believe that Zelda might have physically transformed as well, and that was a debate I remember going on at the time of, is this a disguise, is this an illusion, or is this a physical transformation? And how much is Zelda identifying as this, because they had been like this for a long time while you'd been sleeping.
Yeah, exactly. It was a long time.
So, this is one that I put down as a headcanon. Agio Anuma has confirmed that they view Sheik as a woman, that they were just using this as a disguise and not transitioning, which is fair. Like, I don't think they're, like... I completely get why someone would clock Sheik as a trans character, but I also can understand why somebody wouldn't. But either way, Sheik was definitely somebody that a lot of people who were questioning their gender identity latched onto in high school. I was one of those people.
Same. Yay, go us.
There's a reason why Sheik was my original main in Smash Bros. Was it Melee or Brawl that they first introduced Sheik? Melee?
I think it was Melee. Yes, it was Melee.
Yeah. They were my main in Melee. In the original Smash, it was Yoshi, because I need to. If I can't play the trans character, I apparently need to play the dinosaur with no gender.
Yeah.
But yeah, you guys have any comments here as Nintendo is slowly starting their rise from the ashes?
Correct me if I am wrong, but is Sheik
Yes.
the only game that Sheik appears in the main series Ocarina of Time? It is that Sheik doesn't return anywhere else.
Nope. That is the only place in the main series. You have Hyrule Warriors, but that's not main.
Yeah.
I mean, Sheik is just...
It's hard to believe, isn't it?
Yeah, like, Sheik is such a fascinating and memorable character.
You'd think they would have brought Sheik back as a thing.
Yeah, like, I feel like there's so much potential story, like, you know, just being left on the cutting room floor, like...
Yeah.
Like,
I agree 100%. I would have adored if we saw more of Sheik in Twilight Princess. Have Zelda have trained a new group of Sheikah that continued on to that point. Like, that would have been very interesting. But at this point, we're getting on building our own Zelda game.
I mean, sure.
But yes, to continue, we have another. We actually have two more Nintendo ones in a row, and one of these is canonical because they can't argue with game mechanics. Meryl from Pokemon is trans. Got to accept it. Have you heard about this, Brian?
Not this particular line of inquiry, so go on.
So, in the Gold and Silver games, Azurill, the baby form of Meryl,
Yep.
has a 75-25 gender ratio. 75 female, 25 male. Meryl has a 50-50 gender ratio, which means your Azurill, your female Azurill, when they evolve, has a 1 in 3 chance of becoming a male Meryl. They are canonically a trans-masculine Pokemon. This is the only Pokemon in the franchise to have this. It was an error, but it was an error they didn't fix for another 4 generations. It's not until X and Y that they fix the gender ratios.
I did not know that. So there we go. Yeah, you're right. There.
That's delightful.
It is. It is delightful. I do appreciate that. I wish they never fixed it, but whatever. I get it's not intentional, but it is a very cute little bug. To continue on, We got one more Pokemon example, although this is a real weird one. There was a video online, a non-doctored video. This is actually real. We did find this out, of a female Nidoking, a Pokemon that can only be male, because the Nidoking and Nidoqueen lines are gender segregated, 100% one way or the other. And nobody could tell why. The video popped up. It was shared widely online at the time, but people were going into the code of games trying to figure out what was going on. They ended up finding out that there was a mod that was a very popular Pokemon mod at the time, that a bug in the mod, this was not intentional, made it so there was a 1% chance of Nidorans being the other gender, allowing you to get a Nidoking. So it wasn't actually official in Pokemon, but we didn't know that for another, I think, 10 years after the video came out, before they were able to track down where the issue was and where it came from.
You know.
So that's just a weird little one. Next we actually have two big pieces of representation. Ones that I know a lot of people embraced. First, we have Adele from Final Fantasy VIII.
Wait, what?
So, Adele uses feminine pronouns, is referred to as a woman, and she is a sorceress. She also has pecs, has a very, very explicitly masculine body, and you would not clock this character as even non-binary. Like, they just appear pretty explicitly masculine. And a lot of people, I will say a lot of people, I've seen enough people who have embraced Adele as a trans woman.
I put hundreds of hours of my life into that game, and that didn't occur to me until today. Wow. Huh.
Surprise!
Yeah, I'm talking recorded over my brother's talent show to use the ending of Final Fantasy VIII. Obsessed levels.
I remember. I wasn't sure if you'd ever. I did not know whether you had put this together or not.
I didn't know, and now I'm like, oh yeah, okay. I see this.
Go and Google the character right now and see what I mean.
I will.
Like, it's really hard to read Adele's form as explicitly feminine. And I know it is rather problematic just to go off of what someone looks like, but when you're looking at representation like this, sometimes that's enough for people.
No, I see what you're getting at. That makes sense.
On top of that, as another little piece of thing for it, their name is unisex. Adele, that is a unisex name. That's all I really have for Final Fantasy VIII.
Jesus.
What?
She's also jacked. My God.
She really is. Ryan, are you taking a look?
Yeah, I did.
I'm looking. I am looking respectfully.
Right? Yeah.
I'm looking respectfully.
I understand. We are all looking respectfully.
Yeah, very tasteful.
Oh. So, very tasteful. So, next to the next good piece of representation, which is representation from 10 years ago, from 20 years ago, that's just as relevant today, because it came out again today. We have Vivian from Paper Mario and the Thousand-Year Door.
Oh, okay. Alright. Explain, do tell.
There's not a whole lot to explain. Vivian is explicitly a trans woman. It is a major part of her plot. This is not like reading into it. This is not mechanics. Straight up, here's a line. Truth is, it took me a while to realize I was their sister, not their brother. Now their usual bullying feels heavier. They are a little trans ghost girl who is part of a group of now 3 sisters, who is the butt of all of their jokes, who is explicitly bullied transphobically by their elder sister. And Mario, throughout the course of the game, helps them to stand up for themselves, and Vivian joins your team for a period of time as one of your group.
Yeah,
Yes?
I've seen that. I've seen walkthroughs, whatever, on that, and that didn't occur to me. Nobody mentioned that
No,
in the
it
hundreds of
didn't.
hours I've watched of that.
It didn't, because you were watching the original game that was censored in America, where they removed all references to trans people.
Well, that doesn't shock me at all.
Yep. So, Vivian was explicitly a trans woman in Japan. She just was. That entire plot line was removed by censors when it was brought to America, and with the current re-release, the re-release had just kept the plot line in. They did tone down some of the transphobia a bit. They still kept it that they're standing up to their elder sister, who is transphobic, but it isn't quite as mean-spirited as it was originally. But for the most part, they just kept the storyline the way it should have been. Which is, great.
Yes.
Vivian is the most clear, solid piece of representation we've gotten to so far. And I'll be honest, Vivian's goddamn adorable.
Well, yes. I still have to get the remake of Thousand Year Door because I really loved the original.
Yeah.
I never played the original or the remake, but I have to do that.
Vivian's story is that of someone standing up to their family and learning to be proud of their identity, and I think that is awesome. And I'm happy to say we're going to see more of that going forward.
Yes, good.
Not with our next character, though.
Not so good.
Our next character, we go back to bad representation. We have the beautiful lady ? From Persona 3. Mainly because this is one of those scenes that went around the internet when we were younger, that I saw, I know most of my friends have seen, where the party in Persona 3 are at the beach, and they're trying to hit on girls, and they are striking out real hard until they find a beautiful lady that they hit on who seems receptive to them. Until they notice a tiny bit of stubble left that they missed, because they're a trans woman. To which the characters respond not super well, yelling out, "She's a he," and starting to run away. It's pretty distasteful. In the remake of Persona 3, they recognized how problematic this was, and they completely redid the character. Instead of being a trans woman who scares the party away, instead she is a conspiracy theorist that the party hits on, and then tries to convince the party that the sun isn't real, it was replaced in the 80s, and that they need to buy her sunblock to protect themselves from the beams of the false sun.
Oh, wow.
I mean, it's an improvement.
I was gonna say, I'm like,
Definitely an improvement.
It definitely is an improvement, ish.
Yeah.
And and ish is doing some heavy lifting there. All right. That's kind of. I feel like that gets a "you tried" sticker.
Yeah, and the character's line, even the original. I guess you fellas aren't ready for a woman like me. If you decide you want to try something a little spicier, you know where to find me. I mean, at least she's confident.
Yes.
Good for her.
Good for her. She just was in the wrong game.
Yep.
Okay. Next is Persona's second attempt at capturing the trans experience, or at least touching on the trans experience, with a character who isn't really trans, but gets headcanoned as such by many people, Naoto Shirogane. Have either of you played Persona 4?
I've played none of those, and given how much I like action RPGs, I feel like I'm missing out, so I should probably get on that.
I love Persona. I started on Persona 4. I love Persona 4. I love Persona 5. As you saw with the previous thing, Persona can be problematic sometimes, but 95% of the time it is very enjoyable. Naoto is my favorite character in Persona 4. They were born AFAB, and they do actually identify as female. This will come up in a little bit, but they are a teenage detective, famous for solving some cases, but not getting any real respect because of their age and gender. So they have leaned into a more masculine persona, acting like a man, speaking like a man, and kind of living that way because it's their only way to get respect in a male-dominated job and organization, being the police department. Which all of that is interesting. Not really trans, but interesting. Then we get into each of the characters has to go into their own minds. You all go into their mind and have them face their deepest fears before they can come out of it on top and join your party. And in her mind, her alternate dark shadow self creates the creepiest surgical room to give them gender reassignment surgery to finally be a man like they want. It's not... Yeah, it's creepy as fuck. Creepy as fuck. Uh-huh. I would say try 5. It's creepy as fuck, and she has to come to terms with her gender. Does she want to be a boy, if she had the choice? Or does she want to be a girl? Does her desires to present as masculine, is that an actual desire that they have, or is that simply a way that they are combating the very patriarchal, very male-dominated industry that they are in? And that's ultimately where it came down to, of they do embrace their femininity, and that they're going to find a way to both do that and to force the people around them to respect her for who she is. So I really like the character and their story, and it definitely does lean into a bit of a trans narrative in there of somebody who's questioning their gender and then comes out the other side deciding not to transition. And I think that is a very valid, more people should be able to question their gender and come out the other side.
I agree.
I think that it is a really, really good piece of commentary there of just because you're questioning doesn't mean you're gonna end up being trans. It just means that, if you are questioning some stuff and you want to figure some stuff about yourself, explore that, and maybe you'll decide that you were trans, you were the opposite. Maybe you won't. Maybe you'll decide, maybe you'll be able to go, I am comfortable the way I am, even more so because I have challenged it and found that this is who I believe I am, what I believe I am. And I think that's awesome, and it's basically the only example of this I goddamn found.
From a narrative perspective, yeah, you don't really sort of see that sort of inner struggle like that inner questioning.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've never played any of these games, but I'm glad that they...
Persona?
Yeah, I've never played any Persona games, so...
When I finished Persona 4, it became one of my top 10 games of all time. Immediately after I finished it. Then I finished Persona 5, and it immediately kicked Persona 4 off of that list and replaced it. So, I recommend Persona 5. I think it is a better game overall, but I love both of them. And they're both very fun. Persona 4 is way more character-driven, while Persona 5 is way more plot-heavy.
Cool!
So, just all depends on what you're looking for. So Naoto is not bad representation, they just aren't trans representation. Okay. Next, we get to a character that I debated for quite a while on whether I was going to include them or not. And that is Luca from Steins Gate. Have either of you two heard of Steins Gate?
I've not even heard of
No.
this game, so
I don't remember. No idea.
you are pulling out a lot of games that I'm just
Steins Gate. Now, first of all, Steins Gate was very big. It was a huge visual novel, but, and the reason I debated putting Luca on here, it is an even bigger anime. That is how I heard about it originally. I watched it at the time. And I said I was not including characters that came from from non-gaming franchises first. And I had to go, Steins Gate is bigger as an anime, but it started as a video game. Do I include it? And I decided yes. I will include it. It started as a video game, regardless of whether it blew up afterwards as an anime. Make sense?
Oh, look at you adjudicating your own rules.
Somebody's got to.
Somebody has to.
Also, and this is something I knew going into this, Luca is a complicated character. We're getting into the point where we're going to reach complicated characters. Characters that are more than just a couple lines to talk about. And I'm worried I'm not going to do him justice. But they're certainly a prominent character, and they get a great deal of debate regarding their gender identity. So I decided they were important enough to include. Forgive me if I get any facts wrong. It has been years since I interacted with the franchise. I did refresh myself looking at the wikis, but I was not going to be replaying the games right before this podcast. I had to do dozens of hours of research before this, as it was. Since I'm the only one on here who's super familiar, Luca is a complex character. They are assigned male at birth, and they identify as masculine. Then they also wish multiple times throughout the game that they were born a girl. They dress femininely, but they were forced to do so by their family. We have another character, as you can see, we have another character. This will not be the last one who has that trope. But they express joy in dressing femininely as of the current point in time of the game. They worry that their love of cooking will make them appear less masculine, but they're more worried about other people's perceptions of their masculinity than their own perceptions of it. They are explicitly in love with the main character, Okabe, who is a man, and they feel they can't pursue that love because of the latent homophobia present in Japanese society at the time, and they feel like they could pursue him if they were a woman. All of this is the background for this character. So, Steins Gate as a series is a visual novel about making changes in timelines and seeing what happens. And trying to get to a good world where a friend of yours survives instead of dies, which is what starts the series off. Everybody with me so far?
I am. Keep going.
Okay. So, Luca's main thing throughout this is there is one of the changes that can get made, or that you will make, allows Luca to be born as a woman. And you get to see what their life would have been like if they were born as a woman, and how much happier they are, and how miserable their current gender and everything was for them, and how much they were fighting against it, and seeing that it's really hard not to put everything from before into context as seeing themselves as a repressed trans girl. It's real hard not to read them that way. She is more comfortable with herself as a woman than we ever see in the original timeline. And when her timeline is going to be reversed, assuming you do that, if you don't, you can get an ending where Luca ends up happy and you end up with Luca. But assuming you do revert the timeline, she will be in tears as you do so. That she is going to lose this.
Oh. That's rough. That sucks.
Luca is a very, very powerfully written character, and one that I really enjoy. I know a lot of people don't particularly like Luca because they are pretty shy, especially before we go into the other timeline where they are a woman. But I've always liked the character a lot. And yes, they do not get to stay happy. That's not necessarily anything against them as a trans person. Nobody in this gets to be happy. This is a series of tragedies. That's what this is. So, this is just one of many, and at least they survived theirs.
I was going to say, is this Shakespeare the game?
Yeah, it kind of is. Like I said, the whole point of this game is to try to save your one friend, and everything you do to try to save them just makes things worse for everyone else. That's kind of the lesson. And it is possible. Like, there is a good ending in the end that will let you save your friend, but for the most part, the lesson you get from this game is, whatever you do, whatever you change is going to make things worse than it already is.
All right.
So, ultimately, whether Luca is explicitly a trans character or not, they are definitely a trans-coded character. We good?
We good.
Okay, so next, we go to a game that I think Brian has played. I could be wrong. Brian, did you ever play Dark Souls?
I have played it. I gave up on it, but I have played it.
Okay, then you probably have not gotten to Gwendolyn.
No, not ringing a bell.
So, Gwendolyn is the only surviving god as of... I won't say that. The most prominent surviving god in Dark Souls 1. They are the son/daughter of Gwyn, the head of the gods. They were born as a boy, but they were raised as a daughter by Gwen, most likely because they... Well, not most likely. It explicitly says because they were born with the power of moon magic instead of sun, like the rest of the family. And he did not want somebody with the power of the moon to inherit the throne of the sun. So by raising Gwendolyn as a daughter, they are no longer in the immediate line of succession. They would, instead of being second in line, now they are last in line. Gwyn's kind of a shitty guy.
Much like Odin.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of comparisons there. There's a lot of comparisons there. So, Gwendolyn was raised as a woman. And before I get into anything, discussions of this character's gender are generally fraught with transphobia online. There's been a lot of discussion on this character's gender in the Dark Souls community. And I know a lot of great people in the Dark Souls community. I don't think the Dark Souls community is as toxic as some people think, but it absolutely has a portion of that Gamergate crowd that embraces it. That is very DEI, transphobic, they're a lot. I think we're going to be talking about those assholes later in another episode.
We might, yeah.
Oh.
Foreshadowing.
Yeah, just trying to throw that out there into the ether. So they are the deity of the moon in this, or a deity representing the moon, typically a feminine role in most fiction, which contrasts with their father, who is a masculine figure who is the god of the sun, represents the sun. By the start of the game, they are the most prominent god remaining in the land. Their father, Gwyn, was the first person to link the fire to save the world. One of the decent things he actually did. And the rest of the family had all ditched. The eldest son was exiled. The eldest sister, the eldest daughter, had left the kingdom, leaving Gwendolyn, the person who wasn't supposed to inherit the throne, as the only person left. And they take on that. Yeah. Now, part of the reason I believe that they are actually a trans woman is there's no one left to force their gender presentation. But they still retain their feminine appearance and mannerisms, and they do for millennia, because they're one of the few characters who shows up in Dark Souls 1 and Dark Souls 3. They're in both games. Their storyline is pretty much explicitly one of tragedy from the very beginning. But you also have other parts of it. You have Yorshka, who is Gwendolyn's half-sister from their mother's side, so not a god, that calls Gwendolyn brother. So they could also be seen as a masculine character, or because they still dress the way they do it, at the very least a gender non-conforming character. I would like to quote this though. In Dark Souls 3, we find the reversal ring, which is Gwendolyn's ring, which allows masculine characters to do all of the. In Dark Souls 3, weirdly, you have masculine and feminine versions of a lot of the emotes, and the reversal ring allows you to perform the opposite gender's emotes. The ring's description, though, Gwendolyn was raised like a daughter through the aura of the moon, and was said to behave like a sullen, brooding goddess. And I'll be honest, sullen, brooding goddess is transition goals.
All right, well, if you want to be a sullen, brooding goddess, we can work on that.
But yes, it's pretty clear Gwendolyn's story is one of tragedy. It's very clear that Gwyn is ashamed of his now daughter. There are statues of every other member of the family, even a spot where their firstborn, the one that was exiled, was. And there are no statues of Gwendolyn in the entire game. Like, you wouldn't know the character existed until you find them and figure out what's actually going on. And then in the third game, you run across them getting killed and devoured by the Devourer of Gods, and you have to fight the puppet of their dead corpse. Dark Souls is a very disturbing game sometimes.
Yeah, it was. The sheer difficulty of the game prevented me from actually making any sort of significant progress. So there's that. Gwendolyn is all sorts of gender fuckery, but at the very least, they're non-gender conform. There you go.
And I think we can leave it there. We're getting through this list. Look at this.
Look at you.
We only have one more character in the modern era, and then we hit contemporary, which is the current time.
Yes.
Finally, we have another Pokemon character, an explicitly trans character, official, not headcanoned. Beauty Nova from Pokemon X and Y. The Beauty is a trainer type that is exclusively female. The Black Belt is a character type that was exclusively male. So in English, it's their dialogue is, "Yes, a mere half year ago I was a Black Belt. Quite the transformation, wouldn't you say?" They say as a beautiful woman. In Japanese, it's even more clear. "I was a Karate King just half a year ago. The power of medical science is awesome, wouldn't you say?" Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, I remember.
They're just...
I love that.
I remember that. I mean, Pokemon X was the most recent Pokemon game I have played. I remember that.
They get queerer going along. We need to get you to play some modern Pokemon.
I mean, I suppose I could. I suppose I could play what is essentially the same game for the 6th time. So
No, you don't have to. But yeah, so we've gone from Nintendo poking fun at trans characters to having Vivian, one of the best pieces of representation we've seen so far, and then goddamn Pokemon just having an explicitly trans NPC. It's been a redemption arc.
It has been.
And we're going to see if that redemption arc continues when we return on the second half of this episode of Downloadable Content. and welcome back to the trans representation episode of Downloadable Content. Where we left off, we had finished with the modern age of games around the end of the PS3, and we are continuing into the contemporary age, which is basically everything up to today. We dealt with a lot of not great representation with a couple gems, and in this half, hopefully, we're going to be reversing that, where we're going to end up with a lot of gems and not as much bad representation. Not none, but better.
Do you mean
And
the crystal gems?
Yes. Yes. And I still have Brian with us. Rin had to run. They have a child to care for. And we will miss his insight. But we will continue here. All set?
We'll forge onward and upward.
Yes. So we are forging onward into Fallen London. So this is a game I'm pretty sure you've heard of.
This is the part where I wish Ethan was here. Ethan
Yes.
loves Fallen London.
We bonded over it the last time I was up there.
Yes, you did.
And so, Fallen London has all of the representation. Trans representation, trans masc, trans femme, non-binary, gender fluid, whatever you're looking for. Gay, straight, bisexual, pansexual, anything like, everything you're looking for is somewhere in that goddamn game. But what I want to talk about is your player. What I want to talk about is character creation. What you get to choose the very first things you see in the game. Which was notorious, not notorious, not bad, but well known on the internet, originally as a meme, for having this as one of your gender choices. Male, female, or lady, my dear sir, there are individuals roaming the streets of London at this very moment with the faces of squid. Squid! Do you ask them their gender? Yet you waste our time asking me trifling and impertinent questions about mine. It is my own business, sir, and I bid you good day. That's a gender option alongside male and female.
Very interesting. And, just as an aside before you continue, I own Sunless Skies. I have not played it yet. It is in the perpetual backlog, so,
I was gonna say, maybe someday when I visit we'll play it together, because I haven't played it yet either.
Alright, sounds good.
In the actual game, this pops up as gender, a person of mysterious and indistinct gender. That is what your gender pops up as. So, you also, you get to choose your pronouns, he, she, they, or it. You also get to choose what you just did there, and you also get to choose the titles that will be used to describe you. Lady, gentleman, individual of mysterious and indistinct gender, more specific types of lady, such as lass or matron, more specific types of gentleman, such as lad or dandy, or you can choose expressions of your personality. So instead of using instead of using lady or gentleman, instead they can call you waif or detective. These are all of your options at the beginning of the game.
Nice.
You just get to be whatever. It's kind of amazing. Any of this can be changed at any time. You are not locked in at the beginning of the game. You can go and decide that your character has decided their identity has changed. You can go and change it with a simple dialogue option. It's kind of the gold standard for this kind of stuff. It does a very good job. And yeah, unless you have anything to say about it, just it's one I really wanted to point out.
Yep, I have not.
I play the game.
Yeah, I have not played any of the Fallen London games yet. As I said, I own Sunless Skies. It is in the backlog.
And I didn't bring this up earlier. I probably should have. So, I played a lot of video games for the people who are listening in. I have not played every game we're talking about. I've played about half of them. I did a lot of research to find important transgender characters. I used a lot of information from my own life. There are several characters I remember being talked about that I wanted to discuss. But it is nice when I get to characters that I am very familiar with, like Fallen London. Let's continue to probably the best piece of non-binary rep or gender fluid rep, depending on how you read it, in this entire bracket of characters. We have Leo from the Tekken series. I assume you're familiar with Tekken, at least.
I am familiar with Tekken. I have played a couple of the Tekken games.
Do you remember a character named Leo?
Let's see. I'm trying to.
The answer can be no.
I'm trying to remember because it has been literally years since I have played a Tekken game. So, I think the last one I played was 6. So yes,
and 6 was where Leo was introduced.
And now I'm looking at the picture of the character. Yes, I do remember Leo.
Awesome. So Leo is a beautifully androgynous fighter in Tekken 6 who has been in every game in the franchise since then. They are generally able to equip both the male and female restricted equipments and are referred to in most games in gender-neutral language. When asked what gender Leo is, the director has said, Leo is Leo. They were designed trying to create a character that both male and female audiences could connect with and lust after.
I can see why.
I think they succeeded.
I think they did.
But once again, whenever you have a character and their series is in the mainstream, you're going to get a lot of pushback. There are a lot of people who claim that Leo is a female character because their original design, before the game came out, they were originally a female character that was redesigned and redone as a non-binary character. But they do have, concept art that they are using to justify the fact that this is not a non-binary character, which is kind of shitty of them.
So, fun fact, are you familiar with the internet?
I'm very familiar with the internet.
Are you familiar with this is you want shitty opinions and shitty hot takes, you can find them in less than 10 seconds.
Oh yeah. Almost all of these characters have gotten shitty hot takes on the internet. I'm only talking about it when it's when they are big enough hot takes that they are very common. That they are part of the basic dialogue for this character.
Yep.
To the point that discussions about Leo's gender in some of the forums for Tekken have been banned because they cause too many issues.
Mm-hmm.
Not that I feel I need to, but justifications for Leo's non-binariness, they are listed on the lists of both male and female fighters in their games. The director has said that it was intentional. Like, there have been errors in localization. In certain localizations, they've used gendered terms for Leo, different ones in different places, but most of the time they have been reverted. So the intention is definitely that they are a gender neutral or gender fluid character, but you can find some evidence otherwise if you really look. But it really doesn't stand up to any scrutiny.
Mm.
So unless you have something, I think we can move on from there.
Yeah, go. Yeah, move right along.
Okay, moving right along into good, bad representation.
Oh, good. A question mark. All right.
Erica from Catherine.
I have not played Catherine. I know you have gushed about this game.
I really enjoyed Catherine. Catherine is a very problematic game. It is a very fun game. It has endearing characters, even if those characters are not always the best people. And Erica is a really good example of this. Erica is the waitress at the cafe that your group of friends is at pretty much every single day, and she is one of your high school friends. When you knew her in high school, this is before she transitioned, when she was Eric. And we'll get to that. I'm using the character's dead name on purpose because we're going to get to that in a second. Erica is a very attractive woman. And she is a bit flirty. And she is a very good friend to the main character. The main character doesn't really act like a really good friend to her, though. He is constantly poking at her gender. He makes references to the fact that she's not really a woman in his eyes a couple different times. There is one member of their group who wasn't part of their high school group, so they don't know that Erica has transitioned. And they are totally into Erica, and the rest of the group is kind of trying to figure out how to obliquely tell him that the woman that he's into is trans. All of this is not great. But it's also not meant to be. None of this is put in a good light. None of this is meant to be a case of we're supposed to be agreeing with these characters. The game is pretty much deliberately, it is pointing us in the direction of, no, they are acting shitty and you're supposed to be judging them for that. And that's why I don't think the representation is as bad as it seems. Especially since Erica as a character is done very well. They are very comfortable in who they are, in what they are. They are, like I said, a gorgeous woman who is very confident in themselves, and they show that. And they show that through their interest in one of the other characters, who they end up starting to date by the end of it. She is a fully realized character that isn't just a cardboard cutout or a stereotype. And it's why I think overall this is positive representation more so than not. Does that make sense?
It does, yeah.
Okay. And then they kind of ruin it a bit when the credits dead name the character. In the credits, they are listed as Eric Anderson. That's why I mentioned the name earlier. It's...
Way to shit on your own character there.
Yes. You can't miss the fact that the character is trans, but if somehow you did, the ending credits are the explicit reveal that they are trans. That's why they did it. In their mind, I'm pretty sure that's why they did it. And I don't think they realized how harmful that was, but it's never explicitly put in your face until that moment. In those words. It's always spoken around.
Yep.
This is corrected in Catherine Full Body, which is the remake of the game. They fix that and just have her listed under her actual name. That's a good step.
Yep.
That's good. But yes, this is one of those characters that I thought was very important to talk about. They are, whether a lot of people realize it or not, they are a pretty big character. I saw tons of cosplays of people playing her before I even played the game. She is a fan favorite from the series. And I know a lot of more people came back to Catherine with Full Body because of Persona. Getting into the series from that. Since they're all part of the same franchise along with Megami Tensei. Also, one last thing I'll point out before we move on. It's also refreshing to see an older trans character, as she is in her 30s. It kind of hurts to call her older when I'm older than she is, but when most trans characters are in their early 20s at most, a character in their 30s is older.
Yeah.
And we don't get a lot of those.
I mean, agreed.
It shows that transitioning isn't something that you grow out of. And it is refreshing to see somebody who isn't in their transition, who has transitioned and is living their life that way and has moved on from that. And I appreciate being able to see trans people at different points in their life.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. To continue, a very short one. We have Aid Worker Seiya from Guild Wars 2. Did you play Guild Wars 2?
I have not.
Didn't think so. I'm just checking as I go. So aid worker Saya is a minor NPC in the game. She is not a super prominent example. There was a kickback when she was revealed, but that's not why I'm choosing her. I'm choosing her because she is the only example I can think of a character who transitions during a game. You initially meet them as a male character, and then after a catastrophic event in the narrative, where a city is destroyed, there's a time skip, the next time you see them, they will have transitioned to a female character, and you will get dialogue where you can ask them about it. The dialogue, when you find them later, as you're looking at the place that was destroyed, beautiful, isn't it? After Scarlet attacked the city, this statue was rubble. Now look at it. More glorious than ever, just like a lion's arch. Have we met before? I was one of the aid workers in Blood-Tide Coast after Scarlet's attack. I'm Sia. Back then I was known as Simon. Thanks for your service. What prompted the change? Scarlet destroyed so much in the blink of an eye. It reminded me of how short life is and how we should spend every moment embracing who we are. That's brave of you. Thank you. Being a mesmer makes it easier. Take care. Be well. Mesmer, for people who aren't in this, are illusion mages, so they are using illusion magic. So yeah, it is the only example I had found of a character who was explicitly one gender and explicitly another in the same game.
Aha.
I thought that was cool.
It is cool. That's very cool. That's, again, a narrative device that doesn't pop up very often.
Yes. So, to continue, this is a short one, but this one was big enough that it was in gaming magazines. The creator has done conferences. It is called Dysphoria, DYS4IA. It is a web game. It takes you 5 minutes to play. I played it in 5 minutes yesterday in preparation for the podcast. It is a game created by a trans woman showing snippets of her experiences transitioning. It is the earliest game I can find focused on an individual trans person's journey. The levels in it are gender bullshit, medical bullshit, hormonal bullshit, and it gets better ? It is less of a game and more of an interactive story. Not to dismiss it, there are game aspects to it. I'm not saying it is not a game, but do not go into it expecting anything that is heavy mechanically. It is more using game-like mechanics to show someone what the experience of dysphoria is like. Yes, go ahead.
So something a bit more autobiographical.
Very much so. Very much so. Things like when you're trying to get to the... so all of this is done in, like, Atari graphics. And so you have your little Atari... your little Tetramino figure trying to get through a doorway that is not shaped for your shape. Things like that to kind of show how a trans person may feel about their body. Not everybody has the same experience. I saw trans people were talking about how this doesn't really match up for them, but it does match up for others. And we all have our own journey, and I think the more stories we get out there like that, the better.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I got for Dysphoria. It's a short game. I've probably in the time I've been talking about it, you could have completed it. To move on, a game I think you've played. I think we've talked about it, but I might be wrong. You played South Park: The Fractured But Whole?
No.
Oh, okay, I thought you had.
No, I am not a fan of...
Talking to?
It wasn't me. I am not a South Park fan.
Oh, okay. I was talking to somebody on... not on one of your podcasts. While we were sitting waiting for a podcast, I was talking to one of your guests about it. I just don't remember who it was. I remember doing this. I'm a fan of South Park, generally. Not that it doesn't have issues. It's got a lot of issues. And the representation isn't always great. This is an example of that. This representation is either, I won't say good. This representation ranges from okay to bad, and it does both. So, you are aware of the two South Park games.
Yes.
South Park Stick of Truth and Fractured But Whole. They were big.
Yes.
So, in Stick of Truth, you are a boy character. You get to create your character, but you do not get to choose their gender. They are a boy. You play the same character in the Fractured But Whole. But early in the game, you get pulled into the school counselor's office, Mr. Mackey, who goes, I wanted to ask you a couple things. We haven't really talked about the whole gender and the red, and you can basically go, no, I am a woman, or I'm non-binary, I'm gender fluid. You can choose whether you're trans or cis, and yet you always were, and that everybody in the first game was just too dumb to ask you what your gender was. And I think that's hilarious.
Yes.
That's a really fun way to take it, because you can do it and be like, is it a change? You go, no, and they're like, oh, so you always were. And no one... oh. And then problematically, the counselor calls your parents, which is a big fear of trans kids. But lovely enough in this game, your parents absolutely back you up no matter what you chose. Your parents have your back in that case. One of the few cases in this game where they do. As they confirmed to the school counselor that yes, you are whatever you said you were, and how the counselor should already know that. It's actually handled pretty goddamn well. Then you have a moment where immediately after that, when you leave the school, you get jumped by a bunch of rednecks who don't like an issue with who take issue with your type in this town. The problem is, or not the problem, they do that regardless of what you choose. If you choose that you are a cis male, they will say they don't like cis in this town. It's poking fun at transgender violence, which is not great. It's also poking fun at how stupid these characters are and that they don't even know what the words are. So I can see why people would take offense at it, but I don't as much. I see it more as poking fun at the rednecks doing that than it is poking it at your character. So once again, at that point, I still see it as relatively positive representation. That goes away partially later in the game. Mostly your choices don't matter that much. But there's some incidental dialogue that's not as endearing. Such as a character that normally says, aren't you a cute little boy or a cute little girl? You want to take a guess at what they call you? A cute little abomination.
And any and all goodwill pissed away.
Uh-huh.
Right down the leg.
So, overall, I appreciated the choices and was quite excited at the time. I made a trans femme character when I played the game. And notably, this was 7 years before I came out as a trans woman. So this game was definitely part of my personal gender journey. It isn't perfect, but it's far from the worst representation we've had on this list.
Yeah.
It's about as good as I can expect from South Park.
I was about to say, it's South Park. So.
Well, do keep in mind, they did have a whole episode of the South Park series based around Cartman not wanting to share a bathroom with a trans character. So instead of forcing the trans people to use a separate bathroom, instead they made a special bathroom for him called the Bathroom for Sissies, CYSSY, for people who are too afraid of sharing a bathroom with a trans person.
Womp womp.
I was gonna say, they're how they deal with trans people is often distasteful, but occasionally they are on the right side of history, as they were there. Okay, to continue onward to something else that won't get me roasted by the people who are listening to this podcast. we have 2 characters from Grand Blue Fantasy, a mobile game, a very big mobile game, though. Are you familiar with the Grand Blue series? They have a fighting game, they have a mobile game, they have a couple different things.
Yeah, this is a series I have heard.
Yes. So there is a character who is in, I think, all the Grand Blue games, Cagliostro, who is an incredibly powerful alchemist, who was AMAB. And they died at the ripe old age of, goddamn, they look like Gandalf the Grey, so they're probably a couple hundred years old. But before death, they used their alchemy to craft themselves a new body out of magic. The perfect body that truly represents who they are. You know, a female body. And she fully embraces that identity, using exclusively feminine pronouns and correcting those who still use male pronouns on her. She is, like, very, like, it's... Come on, it cannot be more clear that they are a trans character, correct? Just from what you've heard?
Yeah. That's,
Well, it's not clear to the community. There is a large segment of the fan base that refuses to recognize her as trans, saying, quote, physically switching bodies means that she is a cis woman, not a trans woman.
I reiterate, you're familiar with the internet, yes?
I'm familiar with the internet. But when there are articles written about this, yeah, how? There's a second character that is trans in Grand Blue, Ladiva, or Ladiva. I've never heard it pronounced. Ladiva is an example that you don't often see. A character that is explicitly trans feminine, who uses female pronouns, who identifies as a woman, but doesn't present super femme. They look like a goddamn Nordic pro wrestler with facial hair. But she uses she, her pronouns. She refers to herself as a woman. She's included with the female characters, and no one in the franchise has any issue with it. She is not made fun of. She is not made a joke of. And they explain why she doesn't present more femme when her and Cagliostro, the character we just spoke of, have a discussion about transitioning. And Cagliostro offers to build Ladiva a body like theirs, a feminine body, and they refuse. They consider the body they have a divine gift, and that is why they've never sought to change it. Which to me is a very clear message that you don't need HRT to be trans, you are valid regardless. You do not have to physically transition, you do not need HRT, you do not need surgery. All of those are things you can absolutely get if you would like, but you don't need to take that route to be considered trans, to be valid. And I think that's super important to hear.
Absolutely.
And right alongside it, a lot of people in the fan base refuse to recognize her as trans, calling her a drag queen instead. I don't feel the need to defend it. We've given enough information here. People who don't want to admit to a thing will find any reason to dismiss it. I'm ready to move on. Next, this is going to be a very, very short thing of just pointing a thing out. The cast of 2064 Read-Only Memories, a cyberpunk pixel art video game that is on my list. I have not gotten to play it yet. It is absolutely chock full of representation of all types, including trans and non-binary and gender fluid, and literally everything under the spectrum. Anything you're looking for, there's a character in it. It's all queer. But I haven't played it yet, so I didn't want to pick and choose like different things to talk about. It's good. I'm gonna play it. You probably should too. Not necessarily you, Brian. I mean, you absolutely can. I'm just speaking to the audience.
So there you go. Pause this episode.
Go play it. Yes, after you finish Dysphoria, it's only 5 minutes. You should be able to get through.
Yep.
Maybe. Actually, no. We already recommended it. So this is the third one after Caper and the Castro.
So there you go. We have built you a backlog. Have fun.
The DLC backlog, it's going to be the new section of the website. It's just going to have a list of every game we've ever mentioned on the podcast.
So do you want to go through? Do you want to go through 191 episodes?
I haven't done voice training yet, and I still feel like I would cringe at hearing my voice from that many years ago. I don't think I want to do that.
All right.
So now we're getting to something I know you've played because we've discussed it. We're going to be talking Undertale.
Yes, I have. Not only have I played Undertale, I have beaten Undertale.
You have. So we are going to be discussing a couple characters. I'm going to keep it brief because I don't want to take up too much time with a single game. First, we have Frisk, Kara, Chris, and Napstablook. All of our non-binary characters. They are all characters that are only referred to with gender-neutral pronouns and never with gendered language. In the Legend of Localization book that Toby Fox put out about translating the journey of translating Undertale to Japanese, it specifically lists Frisk and Napstablook's genders as unstated. He has never made an official statement on it, and they are, at the very least, viewed as possibly non-binary, if not explicitly non-binary characters. Napstablook is explicitly non-binary, and is part of a family of ghosts that all seem to be under the trans umbrella. We got everything under the sun there! Napstablook is non-binary, and we also have a trans man and a trans woman. Do you have an opinion? You want to talk about the trans man or the trans woman first?
Let's see. I have only played this game once, so I'm not as familiar with it as you are, obviously.
Really, it's okay. And one of them you may not know was a trans character because it was a thing that was added in the Switch port of the game.
Which was it?
That would be the trans woman. Do you want me to continue?
Go ahead.
Okay. So the two characters are Metaton as a trans man, which we'll be talking about, and Maddie, or the Mad Dummy, as a trans woman. So you would remember fighting the Mad Dummy, possessing the dummy, the eponymous dummy in the garbage dump area, the one who throws knives at you.
Ooh,
that sound familiar?
Yes, it does. Yes.
So all of them are ghosts that are possessing different things. They are all cousins, Napstablook, Metaton, and the Mad Dummy. You do get that revealed in the game, but you don't know it immediately. The Mad Dummy, who I will be calling Maddie, that is their actual name that is revealed in Deltarune. We don't get that in Undertale, but all the characters share their names, and I'm not just going to keep saying Mad Dummy.
Yep.
So Maddie is one of the ghosts, and they are trying to find a body that fits them. And after they are defeated in the garbage dump, they find a life-size magical girl statue of Mew Mew Kissy Cutie, Alphys's favorite anime, which gets referenced a couple times in the game. It is basically directly stated that the dummy steals it from Alphys's room, and they possess the doll. You get to fight them as a secret bonus boss towards the end of the game. And it's really hard to not read the dialogue you get during the battle as they're trying to bond with their new body as not transcoded. Once I fuse with this perfect new body, a brand new wonderful life is going to begin. As soon as I saw this body, I just knew. It was me! 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 So I took it. You can't blame me. Why does a scientist need a life-sized girl statue anyway? I probably saved it from experiments. I'm a hero, and I rescued myself. And now, with this new body, I've got a brand new life ahead of me. Yeah, that's just a couple excerpts from the battle. Yeah. Seems pretty explicit.
Yeah, that seems pretty cut and dry there. Yeah, just a skosh.
The character uses exclusively they them pronouns. The character is referred to using they them pronouns up until they possess the statue, when they start to exclusively use she her pronouns for themselves. They are also shown throughout the rest of the game. Throughout additional content that Toby's put out since the game. He has done little interview style things with the characters, using exclusively she her pronouns and identifying as a woman. When we see Metaton, who we'll be talking about as well in a moment, and Maddie in Deltarune, they have not found or created their new bodies yet, and they are reclusive, refusing to come outside, just staying in their houses and letting Napstablook support the two of them, because they are too afraid to come out the way they are now, which seems pretty clearly like dysphoria. So, then we have Metaton, the one that was transcoded in the original game.
The most exhibitionist boss battle ever.
Yes. The one who makes cubes sexy.
Yes.
There's a couple different things that come out. Like, there's a lot of hints that the character is a trans character, that their narrative is a trans narrative, but it is most explicit when you go and find their diaries in their old house, where they say, I'd never find the kind of body I'm looking for. And then later, once they meet Alphys in a different diary, saying, Alphys surprised me with something today. Sketches of a body she wants to create for me. A form beyond my wildest fantasies. In a form like that, I could finally feel like myself. Yeah.
Also pretty cut and dry.
I think so. At the very least, these characters are transcoded. Like, you can argue that you don't view them as such, and I won't argue that they do not explicitly tell you that they are, but it's really hard to not see a trans read on their dialogue, even if that's not the read that you are personally taking. But yeah. So we have those. I have one last character to bring up before we move on from this, and that is Noelle from Deltarune. Which our audience can't see, but that I'm currently cosplaying as and have been this entire episode. I got the antlers and everything. Brian vouch for me.
Oh
here.
Yeah, I said you look particularly festive.
Okay, let's get down to it. Noelle's not a trans character. Or at least there's not really trans coding to the character in the game. The internet latched onto her as a trans character because she is a deer girl with antlers. She is a reindeer girl. Female reindeer get antlers. In fact, female reindeer are the only reindeer with antlers come Christmas, which is what she is supposed to be off of, hence the name Noelle. Her whole family is December/Christmas themed. Her sister's name is December Holiday. She is Noelle Holiday. I would love Noelle to be trans. Maybe Toby will go that direction in a future thing. But there is no evidence right now to back that up. So it is a headcanon. And it is a valid headcanon. You can headcanon anybody to be whatever you want, and that is meaningful to you. But it's hard for me to put them on a list of trans characters. That fair?
Seems fair to me.
Yeah. They are my favorite character. I'm literally cosplaying as them. I have had a cosplay of them. Trust me, I'll be the first person here if they are ever identified as trans.
I will hear the squeal of delight from 3.5 hours away.
You absolutely will. You absolutely will. But to move on from there, next we have Ned Weinert from Assassin's Creed Syndicate. A character I am rather mixed on. I assume you're at least familiar with the franchise.
Yes.
Syndicate.
Yeah, I've heard of a lot of these games. I do not live under a rock, but
Okay. So Ted Weinert from Assassin's Creed Syndicate, they are explicitly a trans character. A lot of people clocked it before the game ended, in that they are transmasculine, but they are shorter. They have a bit of a femme look to their face. Like, at the very least, people could tell they were a little more feminine, in that case. Is that good or bad? Who the fuck knows? People can debate one way or another, but there were people who had questions beforehand. There are a lot of people who thought that Ned was a woman dressing as a man to benefit themselves because this was a period of time where women weren't treated great, which would have been a valid interpretation. Like, that's a thing people did. But no, they are explicitly trans. You only find out about it in their database entry. It is never explicitly stated in the entire game. And I'm mixed on that. A trans character does not need their transness to be a defining trait. Like, they don't need their character's plot or story to be focused around the fact that they're trans and the struggles that brings. Trans characters are allowed to have other struggles. They're allowed to have other things in their life than just the fact that they're trans. And that's good. On the other hand, only putting in a database entry means that a lot of people can miss it. And at that point, is the character representation when no one knows? How do you feel about that in general?
I feel like if you're... That kind of thing feels a little intentional. Like, it's like, if you're going to do it, just do it. You know, don't bury that information somewhere. And like, I don't know, because I mean, I didn't write the story for the game, so it's like, okay, maybe it's a deliberate intention that, okay, this is just a trans character just existing.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was the intent. Like, I don't think this, like, the fact that their design, like, they were specifically designed to not have the ultra masculine traits that some other characters have, like, it is definitely intentional that they are trans, and that they were just creating a trans character just living their life. I'm just going, if it's that easy to miss, I don't know how I feel about his representation. But once again, I want trans people just be able to exist and not have to have every moment of their life defined by this one piece of them.
Yeah, that's...
So, I think ultimately I view it as good, but I absolutely can see reading it in a different way.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that's kind of the goal, just as the for the queer community as a whole. Like, get to the point in society where, you know, just existing as a queer person is no less different than existing as a straight person. You just exist. Like, we don't have, like, you don't. There's no need anymore to make a stink about it.
Absolutely.
We have a long way to go to get to that point, but
Yep, we do.
We
But
really do.
But you can see up to this point we're already getting into better representation.
yes.
Next we have Max Lau from Techno Babylon from 2015. One of the 3 main playable characters and a trans woman. Once again, this is revealed through entirely missable dialogue, which a lot of players missed from what I could read. Which is disappointing. There's a dialogue option where she accidentally let slip that she went to an elite school. One that her partner picks up was an all-boys school, which leads to her coming out as trans in, honestly, a pretty tastefully done scene. The creators consulted with trans activists on this scene in the game to come off respectfully. Which, good on them for doing so. From my understanding, the scene, they said the scene was definitely a lot less well done originally, which is why they got trans people to look at it and go, can you help us? And they took the recommendations to heart and gave us a pretty decent scene. I just wish it was a scene that more players had seen. To continue into a game I'm pretty sure everyone knows whether they played it or not, Pokemon Go.
Oh, I know it exists. I know it absolutely exists. But
that's enough. You know it exists.
I know it exists.
So we have Blanche from Pokemon Go. I don't speak other languages. I'm probably mispronouncing that because I know it's a real name in another language. Spanish? I don't know. Blanc is the leader of Team Mystic, and a character who's referred to exclusively with gender-neutral pronouns in the English and German versions of the game, while they use feminine pronouns in Spain, Italy, and Brazil. Notably, German also used to use feminine pronouns, but switched them all to gender-neutral pronouns at once, which to me shows it was a deliberate choice that the character is supposed to have gender-neutral pronouns. From my understanding, there are issues in Spanish and Italian when it comes to gender-neutral pronouns. There isn't a good gender-neutral pronoun to use. This is just what I've heard. I do not speak the languages, so if I am incorrect, I'm sorry. But the fact that they exclusively use gender-neutral pronouns every time the company references the character, they use gender-neutral pronouns, seems pretty clear to me that they are a gender-neutral character. That's it.
All right.
We have the internet darling Dream Daddy. You heard of this game?
I have, actually.
Thought you had. Very simple. Your main character in Dream Daddy can be a trans man. You have binder options for character creation. Awesome, good on ya. And one of the daddies that you can date, Damien Bloodmarch, is just straight up a trans man. And notably, their voice actor is also a trans man. Which, love to see it. Love to see it.
Yeah, good on ya.
Good on ya. So, next, we have one of the two big pieces of representation on this list. One of the two characters that kind of inspired me to do this. And one that you're going to be speaking a little bit on. Madeline from Celeste.
Madeline from Celeste. Which, for me, this game was genuinely the first game I personally played in which we had trans representation. That was the first game in which I was genuinely made aware of that. Like, because I had played Undertale before Celeste, but, the representation there just it never clicked in my brain when I played it. It was Celeste, which was the first time I noticed.
Absolutely.
But, you have Madeline, who is the main character of this game, and the creator themselves have Madeline was supposed to be the representation of the creator and their journey.
The creator who came out as transgender shortly after the game, they took Madeline as their name.
Yes.
Their name after transitioning is Maddie Thorson.
Yep. And
also, the composer is a trans woman.
Yes. So just all queer all the time. But the whole evolution of the character, the antagonist is named Badeline, which is the representation, the manifestation of Madeline's anxiety and depression. And
Pretty relatable.
yeah. So, like, the whole game, the whole climbing of Mount Celeste, so you mentioned the Dysphoria game, the short game. This was somebody's autobiographical journey. Very much in that same vein here, although this game is considerably longer than 5 minutes.
Yes. Now, I definitely see some things there of, like, Celeste is very much a character who is being held down by a lot of internalized issues that is learning their own strength and how to rise above it.
Yes, like, you get to have...
Literally.
Yeah. In the literal sense, like, there are panic attacks that happen in the game, like, and a common positive critique was that this was a pretty good representation of what panic attacks feel like.
So here's a little important piece of information on this. So when the DLC came out, that's when they had the explicitly, like, that's when the trans flag was shown on Madeline's desk. It's when you see a picture of them from when they were a child, and they are very boy-coded at that point. Like, a lot of the stuff that really shows they're a trans character, but it still didn't explicitly use those words. And a lot of creators online who called them trans got death threats and doxing. The internet's pretty shitty, but it was going a little bit farther than usual here. And notably, yes?
I reiterate, have you met the internet?
I know. So there's a reason I'm bringing this up, though.
Mm-hmm.
And for a while, the creators said nothing. And there was a bit of a struggle in the community for that, in that, like, the creator created this thing, but won't say anything to defend the people who were, part of his community from hateful people who really don't belong in this. And it was about a year later, I think, when the creator came out and made the post that, yes, Madeline is trans, and so am I, and that the reason they hadn't said anything until now was because they were still working through their gender identity and the complex feelings, because so much of themselves was put into Celeste, and how that related to their own struggles. And that's where a lot of this information became public. Because when the game was originally released, they were still using their dead name.
Yes. Yep.
So, just important to see the context there of, like, you never know what people are going through or what their actual motivations for a thing might be.
Yeah, like, absolutely. So, I mean, again, this was the first game that I played in which, that sort of representation, that clicked in my brain.
Absolutely. Do you have any more you want to say, or shall we move on?
I think I'm good. I think we have a very good list here, and we have a few more, I think, before we're wrapping up. So.
We do. We have a couple more. Two of the big ones, or one more big one we have. But we're not going straight to that yet. First, we have Zoe from the Monster Prom series. Are you familiar with the series of games, Brian?
Hang on. That is actually ringing a bell. Hold on a second. You talk. I'm going to look that up.
Okay. Monster Prom is a series of games where you play as literal traditional monsters from, like, the Universal series going to high school. You get to play as a Frankenstein monster, a zombie, the literal embodiment of fear itself, an Ifrit, just going to high school and being their worst selves.
I have heard of this. There's a video game
I
streamer.
adore it.
There's a video game streamer that I follow that I watched them play through this once.
Deja and I play through all of them. Like, we love these games. But there is a trans character who isn't just trans. They are my favorite character. Their name is Zoe. Though we first meet them as Zagord in the first game, where they are an eldritch entity from beyond time and space who's been sealed away, whose destiny it is to destroy the universe. In the original game, there are 2 secret endings that you can get. One of which, you release the Dark God as a prank, and it destroys the world and kills all of your friends.
Oops.
In the other ending, you introduce the Dark God to the joys of high school life and take them to prom, and they decide to live their life as a girl. As a high school girl. And in the DLC, and in every every game in the sequence afterwards, they are now Zoe. They view Zagord as a dead name. They explicitly view themselves as a woman now. They do not accept their old they/them pronouns. They identify as transgender. They directly say that at one point. She is super bummed by her cultists that still refuse to recognize she's moved beyond the whole end the world thing and keep dead-naming her in their rituals. She's probably the first trans character, at least the first on this list, whose gender assigned at birth was beyond the concept of gender. So yeah.
There you go.
I adore Zoe. She is adorable. She is a little geeky girl super fan who literally ships her friends together. Yes, more Zoe. Go look up Zoe. She's adorable. While I quickly go through a couple other characters. So we're gonna just knock out a couple people real quick because I can't say anything about them. So Lev from The Last of Us Part 2 is a trans character who was voiced and motion captured by a non-binary trans voice actor. Tyler Ronan from Tell Me Why was voiced by August Aiden Black, a trans man. And Claire from Cyberpunk 2077 was voiced by Maddie Taylor, a trans woman. All 3 of them are from games that I intend to play relatively soon and don't want to spoil for myself. So I'm mentioning them because they are important and everyone knows them, but I was not doing the research into them because I don't want to spoil the games for myself. So, we're skipping past them real quick. So, we are down to our last 3 games to talk about. First, we have the biggest piece of trans representation, the elephant in the room, Bridget from the Guilty Gear series. Do you have any familiarity with this character or the memes associated with her?
I am familiar with the games. I have played a little bit of Guilty Gear, but not necessarily the memes, as you say, because Guilty Gear was not my fighting game of choice.
So Bridget starts out as a character in Guilty Gear X2 or XX, I don't know which it's supposed to be called, which is the 3rd game, if I remember correctly. So that was a long time ago. But they start off, as we've seen a couple times before, as a boy who was raised as a girl by their parents. This is like the 6th character with this plot.
It's a very Japanese trope, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's a very Japanese trope. In this case, because of a village superstition about male twins bringing more misfortune. So by raising one of them as a girl, they wouldn't have to kill their child. So, unlike other characters that we mentioned about this, though, their gender journey didn't end there. Over a decade's worth of games, she learned more about herself, exploring both her masculinity and femininity, until ultimately realizing that she is a transgender woman in Guilty Gear Strive in 2021, explicitly embracing the identity of them as a woman. And dear God, has the trans community embraced her back. She is the most prominent trans character I've ever seen, with memes and discourse about her spreading out from trans spaces and Guilty Gear spaces into the mainstream. I saw friends of mine who were unassociated with either sharing memes of this character. Like, she is one of the big two alongside Madeline for trans representation. So, she had to get brought up. Do you remember this character at all from when you played? Little, like, nun-looking girl with a yo-yo?
I don't.
Okay. You might have played one. You might have played. If you played the original Guilty Gear, that would have been before her.
Yeah. So she came into existence.
2002.
2002. So well, maybe. But I did not play the game anywhere near enough for any character in that game to remember. So.
And she came out as trans in 2021. So, she had a good 9-year run getting to explore her... 19-year run getting to explore her gender. Okay, the last two. We're gonna knock one of them out real quick. The Baldur's Gate 3, both Nocturne the character and the character creator. So to be real quick, Baldur's Gate 3 has an amazing character creator that people spend hours in. And among that, you get to choose your gender and pronouns. But you also get to choose a real diversity of physical characteristics, which is completely separate from your gender. You can run around with a penis and boobs, or a vagina and a beard, or any combination of usually gendered traits that you would prefer in any combination. Be whatever kind of gendered chaos you would like to be. There we go for that. Have you heard anything about any of this?
I have. I mean, Baldur's Gate 3 was such a huge game when it released. This was one of those games where even though I have never played it, I have lost friends to this game. So I have seen Nocturne pop up on social media now and again.
Yep. So to get to Nocturne, Nocturne is a childhood friend of Shadowheart, one of your party members. She transitioned after Shadowheart left home, inspired by Shadowheart's courage, and you can help them reunite through the game and get to see Nocturne's revealing that they are trans, that they are Shadowheart's childhood friend, and you can help them throughout the latter half of the game. Also very notable here is that Nocturne is voiced by Abigail Thorne of Philosophy Tube, a prominent trans content creator, which is also really cool.
Very.
Yeah. Have you heard of Philosophy Tube? I used to watch it.
I have not heard of Philosophy Tube.
Okay. I used to watch it. They do a lot of deep dives into philosophical topics where they're doing like hour and a half videos. So then the final character I have, which I'm sorry is going to be a little longer than a little thing because this is the character I wanted to talk about for this.
You're going to end with a flourish. Do it.
Well, here's the thing. I didn't do it intentionally. If you couldn't tell throughout all of this, I did all of these in year of release. So we would be talking about seeing how representation changed over time. Maybe I didn't make that clear at the beginning. We are going to be talking about Sifrin and Isabeau from the game In Stars and Time. Do you remember me gushing about this game the last time I saw you?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. Yep.
Okay. So there are two trans characters in Stars and Time. Your main character, Sifrin, is non-binary. They use he, they pronouns, and they make it pretty clear that they are non-binary. In the game, they explicitly say they are not a man, and they also showcase a variety of interests, including wearing dresses. But we don't see a lot of Sifrin's gender stuff. We get a lot of character stuff for them, but their gender is not really what we're dealing with. What we're dealing with is the mind-numbing depression and anxiety that they are dealing with as they're stuck in a time loop. That's not what we're talking about today, though. So I just wanted to bring up Sifrin. The real character we're talking about is Isabeau. Isabeau is your lovable himbo party member, who is your support and muscle character. They are Sifrin's partner in comedy, and they're pretty explicit love interests. In love interest, one of the major plots of the game is a will they, won't they, of whether Isabeau will ever be able to confess, considering the time loop stops every time he tries.
Well, that's
Isabeau is... Yes, it is. Yes, it is. But right alongside that, Isabeau is explicitly a trans man. It is not hidden. It is referenced very casually throughout the game. You will learn about bodycraft, which is this universe's version of body reassignment surgery. Craft is their version of magic, and people just bodycraft themselves to give themselves the body that they would like. And when you find the room that this is normally done in, Isabeau references how, oh, this has changed a lot since I did my body crafting. Like they are pretty open about it. Like you find out that they are trans way before the game explicitly talks about it. It does a very good job of that. And before we get to the explicit, them explicitly coming out, you also get little bits and pieces that kind of lead into this dialogue. So I mentioned that Isabeau is a himbo, but he is not as airheaded as he seems, and he calls himself airheaded. Sometimes there'll be little tidbits of knowledge he has that seem out of place, or when the rest of the party reaches a point where they are having trouble progressing, they're having trouble figuring something out, and he will speak up with the answer. And all of this seems like things that seem a bit out of character for him, but that he never volunteers until it is an issue where the party can't progress, where he has to say something. So it shows there's some kind of depth here that we're missing, something that goes a little bit more than skin deep. So those are context for this little series of quotes I'm going to give. So at one point you do a series of friend quests with each of your party members. And each one of them, you get to deal with an issue they're struggling with, and you get to bond with them. And this very much kind of digs into who these characters are. And with Isabeau, you are explicitly digging into their trans identity, their transition. I'm going to give a couple quotes, but to give a little context for it, as part of this conversation, we realize that pre-transition, Isabeau was a woman, but also was very smart, but very shy, intelligent to the point it was off-putting for those around them, and heartbreakingly lonely. Which is why they felt that they needed to leave that in-your-face intelligence behind and put on the himbo persona that we see. So here are the lines you get from this. That was me. I didn't really like myself. And I was ready to spend the rest of my life like this. But one day, after years of living like this, I looked at myself and the way I was, the way I existed in this world. I looked at that kid in the mirror and I thought, is this it? Is this really who I want to be? Couldn't I just be somebody else? Someone that could make friends. Someone people could love. Someone I could love. Someone I wouldn't feel ashamed of being. Couldn't I just change? And that's one of the things people go to houses for, you know? To learn things, to train, to do bodycraft on yourself. And you can stay for a bit and come back changed, and no one would say a thing. They'd just accept the new person you've become. lifting weights, training my voice to be deeper, louder, crafting my own body to be cooler, stronger. Change is destruction, you know? To bring about change, you need to know you might hurt people. You might hurt yourself even. So you always have to be careful and think about whether the destruction you bring about is worth it. I decided it was. So the person I was before, I made them disappear. Killed them with my bare hands. Made sure they'd never, ever come back. So that I could live. It sounds so bad when I say it like that. The kid I was before is still here. I just grew around them to protect them. Building an armor until it becomes the real thing. So I could become someone strong, someone outgoing, someone comforting to be around, someone I would have liked to know before. I'm here is what I mean, and I love myself so much more than I did before. But even the person I am is not a work in even the person I am is a work in progress. I want to change still. I became a big and strong and dependable, happy-go-lucky dude because that's who I needed to be. But lately, I've been feeling like I need to let down the airhead facade a bit. Act less stupid, that sort of thing. It doesn't feel great when people think I'm dumb, just because I act a certain way. So I might change again soon, and become someone slightly new. That sounds cool, right? Doesn't that feel like someone you wouldn't feel ashamed of knowing? To which you go, you don't understand why he would ever think that you'd feel ashamed of knowing him. Doesn't he know you wouldn't be who you are without him? And you respond, I have never felt ashamed of knowing you, not even a little bit. It is one of my favorite dialogue sections in a video game. It really hits home with my transition and how I feel about a lot of things. It really nails the fact that transition isn't a thing that is just over at some point. We are always changing, and who we are is, and we might have built an identity for ourselves, and we may continue to change that. We will continue to change that. And it's easy to think that you did a thing and then you're done, but that's not necessarily the way the real world works. What do you think about any of this?
I think that sums up probably a good number of people in their gender journey and their transition. That's a very powerful bit of dialogue.
The changes destruction part really hits home, where to change, you do have to let go of things that you were, and you can still embrace, like, you are still the same person. You can bring things forward with you, but you are explicitly destroying things in your past, leaving things behind to make the changes you want to in your life. And that is valid, and that may be the right thing to do, but it's also something to consider. To consider what your choices are and make them consciously, make them willingly, and make them with the full context in your head. I definitely understand that whole concept of not being happy with yourself and deciding that I need a change. I need to do something different, to be someone different.
Mm-hmm.
And a big part of my transition when I talked to my therapist when I started was talking about Veronica in the third person and going, what do I need to do to set up Veronica for the best life going forward? What do I need to do to make it so she will be happy, so that she will be able to move forward? And it took a while to internalize that and who I am, and I feel like that's the way a lot of trans people feel about it. And Isabeau is my trans representation. Out of everybody on this list, like, I played a lot of these games, I enjoy a lot of these characters. Isabeau hits me on an emotional level that nothing else does.
And it is easy to see why.
He's really good. Okay, I know we have gone over time, so I would like to to thank Brian for your patience, good sir.
Anytime, my dear.
And I would like to thank all of the rest of you for joining us this episode of Downloadable Content. So, as always, you can find us in all the locations that I apparently did not have correct earlier on in the video. And we will have new episodes coming to you. We have some very interesting ones coming up. No spoilers. But we look forward to bringing you our lovely voices again real soon. Thank you guys very much for joining me, and good night.